States. It's Mark from the United States.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Mark from the States. How we doing today? I'm doing fantastic. I hope you are as well. Thank you so much for coming today. Special new channel. We get to watch out. I've been talking with the creator of the channel. His name is Peter. He's a wonderful guy. And he's got some really cool videos. And if you're a fan of lighthouses, this is a channel for all of you. So the link to his channel will be in the description and to this video also. There's a thing called the Trinity house, and I am only just scratching the surface on what this is. It's like in charge of all the lighthouses, and they have one main guy who's in charge, and at this point in time was Prince Philip. And so Peter was lucky enough, I guess, to be able to interview him back in 1995. And so that's what this video is, and they talk about the Trinity House and what it is, and I'm expecting to learn something that I had no idea about, so I'm excited. Maybe this will be new to a lot of you. There might be some of you who already know all this stuff, so but hopefully you'll get something from it as well. But he, at the time, Prince Philip, was the master. He was the head. So in a funny way, it's because Peter was also he was a light keeper. Is that what they called that? Light keeper, I believe, is what the term would be. And I'm sure I'll get to learn as well. But so it was almost like he was interviewing his boss, which is kind of a unique thing. This has come requested. Thank you so much. You know who you are. It was really cool that they pointed this out and allowed me to get to talk to Peter. And he's, like I said, he's wonderful. So he has given his blessing for us to learn from his videos. And so I'm excited to jump into this. Please come sit on this big imaginary fake couch that I have, and we can all learn something today. So let's do this. Oh, did I say go support his channel? It's so important. Really, really important. All right, let's do it. Here we go. Lighthouse keeper. That's what they're called. See, I'm already learning. Love it. Master of Trinity House. Apparently Trinity House has been around for like hundreds of years as well, so this is not some new organization, right? It's been around history.
Asked him, could you give a brief history of Trinity House and its role?
Well, as it's been going for 400 years, it's a bit difficult. But it was started by, or at least was founded by Henry VIII in 1540.
Wow.
With a charter. And it was really a very interesting concept, that the idea of a lighthouse service being organized by mariners, for mariners, set a very interesting precedent, as it were, as a pattern. And basically the same system has been running ever since. It's added buoyage and pilotage and various other things, but in practice, the concept of Henry VIII has remained very much the same.
And have members of the royal family always been connected with Trinity House, and in what capacity?
Not always, no. Certainly not since, I don't think between Henry VIII and Queen Victoria, I don't think a great many, well, some were, yes. I think the Duke of York, who became James II, was associated with Trinity House, and occasionally there were members of the family were involved. But I suppose since about 1880 or something like that, I think there's been a member of the family has been Master of Trinity House more or less continuously since then. Of course, there were all sorts of ups and downs in Trinity House in its 400 years. I think during the Commonwealth, for instance, it was more or less brought to an end, and then it was resuscitated afterwards. It had a pretty colourful history, but in practice it's been doing the same thing all that time.
And could you describe your role as Master of Trinity House?
Non-executive head. I don't get involved in directly in the administration or management of Trinity House, but I attend the annual court and service, and then if I can, I go to the board meetings if it's possible, and of course I read the minutes of what comes along, and being as it were an ex-mariner, I take an interest in what they're doing. I sometimes make comments, sometimes not.
In your travels around the world, have you had the opportunity to visit other lighthouses and lighthouse authorities? And if so, how do they compare with ours?
Well, no, not. I've visited other lighthouses, both active and passive, as it were. No, I haven't visited any other lighthouse authorities, but I've always, in a sense, if you were at sea at any stage, lighthouse is very much part of your daily existence, and you're interested in them either as marks during the day, or of course as lights at night. And so, if you pass famous lighthouses, it's always an interesting sight to see the one, for instance, down at the bottom of the Gulf of the Red Sea, and there are curious ones in the Red Sea. There's one off Port Sudan, for instance, sits on a coral reef. There are famous lighthouses which, when you see them, you suddenly realise you're actually seeing something historical.
If you've seen other lighthouses, then you must have met keepers. So are keepers all the world over basically the same breed of men, or do you see similarities more than differences?
Well, I should have thought that they must share certain characteristics if people want to shut themselves away
Right.
for long periods of time. Normally it requires a court to do that, but lighthouse keepers will be able to do it voluntarily and live in pretty cramped conditions for a long time. I suppose you must have certain characteristics that must be shared across the board.
And when you have returned home by sea, during your time in the Royal Navy and in your travel since, what did you feel when you saw your first British lighthouse?
Well, it was always pleasant to feel that you were home again. I think the interesting thing coming home now, particularly if you come up past Ushant and into the Channel, is the whole of the Channel routing system, which was partially developed by Trinity House. But it caused a great deal of argument at the time how the people using the channel going into the North Sea and coming out of the North Sea, how it should be organised. And for instance, there are now 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 6 lanes, with the 2 main lanes up and down in the middle, and then 2 coastal lanes. Because a lot of people argued that there should have been just 2 lanes, as it were, but then they said, oh, well, you would have to turn across them. I mean, it was a very interesting argument as to how it would work out.
Out of a long line of distinguished masters, you will be the last that actually has lighthouse keepers working in the lighthouse service. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, working in lighthouses as lighthouse keepers, yes. Well, I mean, it is it's very sad, but I think any service that has been going for a very long time, it's of course there's a sort of nostalgia about it, the feeling that something is being lost. But I suppose you could argue that things have always been changing and that we have to adapt to what happens.
I'm from the old school of if it isn't broken, don't fix it. So, can you explain to me why the Lighthouse service is automating all of its lighthouses?
Well, I think the answer is that it's partly economic and partly the fact that it's technically possible to do it now, technologically possible to do it. I think with any organization, the real problem is the managing of people who are employed in it. And there comes a point when the service they're providing becomes, in a sense, too expensive for the people who are making use of the service. I don't think the Trinity House would have changed the system and got rid of manned lighthouses unless there'd been very strong pressure from the shipping companies to say, why have we got to pay such heavy light dues? And the only answer you can do is to try and make it cheaper. And when you look around at how you can do that, well, you automate them because the investments in automation is quite expensive. But on the other hand, once it's in, it is going to provide a cheaper service. It's sad, but that's the way economics works.
That is just like so many other industries. It's how do you pay the people to keep doing what they're doing? You first start by raising fees, right? People who use the lighthouse service, and and at some point that becomes too much of a bear. And the only next step is to start making these things automated. I don't know too much about lighthouses to really put in too much of any sort of commentary on that, but I can imagine it takes one, like Peter was saying, it takes a kind of a unique person, as the Prince Philip was also saying. It takes a unique person to kind of man the lighthouse, to be there all the time, and it's almost, you have to find that happy medium between automation and manned lighthouses. But yeah, this is interesting.
But that's the way economics works.
The way of the world.
Way of the world. Yeah.
In the years that I have been a keeper, most of the keepers I have met have been involved in a rescue at sea in some form or other. There have been many other examples in our history, such as Grace Darling and her father at the Longstone Light. When we are fully automatic, all this will cease. So how does modern technology make our seas and shorelines any safer?
Well, I think for one thing, the Coast Guard service will still be in position, which is there in the sense to monitor the coast and to provide assistance if necessary. Quite obviously, it doesn't apply. They won't be able to cover it in the same way as lighthouse keepers. But I think even in the days when lighthouses were manned, it was you had to be pretty lucky to run ashore somewhere near a lighthouse.
Right.
In fact, the most unlikely place you were going to run ashore was somewhere near a lighthouse, in effect. So, although it was a bit, obviously lighthouse keepers, given the opportunity, did go to the rescue. But I think the other thing is that navigation is now anyway at sea for anything. Well, practically everything is in a sense itself automated. That it has GPS and various navigation systems, Moran and Decca and so on. So in many ways the chances of just running aground are probably less now than they used to be. And in fact, I can't think of an occasion when it might have been possible in recent years for lighthouse keepers to give a better service than, let's say, the helicopter on sea air rescue duties.
The crews of manned lightships are all gone. The lighthouse keeper will surely follow. As master of Trinity House, is there anything you would like to say to these men, past and present, for the job they have done?
Well, I suppose thank you is about all I can say. It's undoubtedly the service has been enormously appreciated. I'm sure by all seamen throughout the period that the Lighthouse service has been in existence. And I think anybody who's ever been to sea and been responsible for ships at sea would agree that we owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to the people who manned the lighthouses and made sure that they were working when we needed them, because until modern technology with radar and radio fixing and all other sorts of navigation came along, we were completely dependent on visual navigation. And of course, lighthouses, both day and night, played an extremely important part. So there's no question, I think, that all mariners would say how very much the service was appreciated and how much they depended on it.
Thank you very much.
That was nice. He said a lot of things that, a lot of things from the past that are being replaced by automation. He also they're becoming, you don't want to say obsolete, but even with the technology on the actual vessel, with, like he said, GPS and all that stuff, makes it easier not to run ashore, to know where you're at, to do all these things. So there's all these other technologies that are basically putting the lighthouse out of business. If you are a sailor and you have this, there's a sense of romantic connection with the lighthouse, the histories of them, and the fact that they've been a part of your life for so long. And there's, you may have the honor of being able to, like Peter, be a lighthouse keeper, and and the men and women who took on that service really dedicated their lives to it. And to see, of course, this was in 1995. I only imagine it's been expedited even more so. Hopefully, these lighthouses as a structure remain, and to show the history, and to, for younger generations to appreciate them. Hopefully they stick around. Lighthouses are, they're unique. They're all real similar, but yet they're all, such a cliche, very different. Just in architecture, location. They're certainly a part of your history. I know here in my country we have lighthouses. They're around, but being an island nation, they are ingrained in your history. So I can imagine the switching to more of an automated system would probably cause more of a shift. But like I said, there's a romantic memory of lighthouses, and being on the water, and just the feeling it gives you when you see them. I can only imagine. I'm not a sailor, so I don't know, but that was very interesting. Trinity House. Did not know anything about this. Hopefully you learned something today. But thank you, Peter, for allowing us to watch this. And now Peter's got a bunch of videos on other lighthouses and stuff like that we'll dip into. He said that he'd visited Florida and saw some lighthouses there, and which I thought is going to be really cool to see. But he's currently working through a series of videos, and then we'll get to those. So I'm looking forward to getting into his channel. I encourage all of you, before you even watch any more, go to his channel, support him, watch his videos, come back. You can, of course, point out the things that I'll probably miss. But this was, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed it. I enjoy listening to Prince Philip, and you know, pretty cool. Pretty cool. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope everybody's happy, healthy, and safe. Thanks so much for coming. Something different, completely different from what we've been watching. I know we've been doing a lot of music. We have some others that we'll probably get into, but I just really wanted to get into this and see what this was all about and learn something today. All right, everyone. We'll see you later. All right. Bye.
Mark from the States, Mark from the States, it's Mark